Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to the 24 hours of Kyalami, hosted by ACM Racing. We have a fairly decent grid of about 30 to 40 cars on our hands today. Of course, this is a 24-hour race. We're in the qualifying session at the moment. The drivers are getting ready to start or get their positions ready for the start of the race. We've got quite a few drivers setting those lap times. We've just broken into the 1 minute 39 lap times with Baldi and the 165 Aston Martin taking the lead there. A couple of very fast drivers you see at the top left hand side of your screen have been setting relatively close lap times. There's a few drivers who are only a few tenths, a few hundredths away from each other. So we'll see some interesting racing throughout the next sort of hour. I'll be your commentators today for the first hour and a half or so of the race, and we'll see how the action is towards the end of that period as to whether I carry on. But I'll be covering the qualifying, start of this race, and potentially a bit towards the end as well. So this race is the 24 hours of Kyalami. It's part of the 2026 Endurance Series here at ACM. An endurance race every 3 weeks that takes place. That's between 4 and 24 hours. This is about the 8th or 9th round of this season so far. It's been running since the start of this year in January. We had a 12 hours of Spa to kick off the season. And then this is the 24 hours of Kyalami. The next round will be the 7 hours of Nürburgring. Round after that, we've got 4 hours of Indianapolis as well for the Americans out there. So we'll get ahead with the action on today's grid. As I said, Eduardo Baldi is the driver leading the field in qualifying at the moment. ASD Romagnoli Esports and the number 165 Aston Martin taking the lead, taking the fastest time as it currently stands with a 139.735. The Aston Martin, a very strong car here at Kyalami. As you see, it rounds out the final corner there, followed by yet another Aston Martin. You'll see quite a few Aston Martins up at the top. It's quite strong due to its cornering ability and the speed that it has on the straights. I myself am quite a fan of the Aston Martin, so it's good to see this car doing so well here. Some of the cars which we've got going good, we've got Rocco Paoletti in the ISS Racing team. They've got a Mustang out on track. They're in the 184 car. Just behind them we've got another Mustang, that's Sanet Lekaj in the PCGR Mustang there that you see. Very nice livery on that Mustang. Nice blend of yellow, black and red, which is very nice to see. Also got Mercedes in P6, that's the Cryonics by Flybe Esports Racing team that you can see there. Nice blue and purple mix to that Mercedes, a very nice livery if I do say so myself. You can see it running out that corner at the moment. They're in P6. About 7 tenths back from Eric Baldi. They've got a 140.4 on the leaderboard at the moment. They're on a fast lap at the moment and looking to improve on that time, so we'll see how that plays out for them. Behind them got yet another Mustang, that's also part of the ISS Racing team. You can see the number 155 Mustang there with a nice bit of an American blend to it, which is great to see. They're in P7 at the moment with a 140.4 as well, so they're only about 100ths of a second back from Zeet, who was in the Mercedes. So we'll be seeing if they can improve positions. They're on fast lap at the moment as they head down in towards turn 1, so they'll be trying to get those tenths out of braking points, trying to get the tenths out of the exits, and trying to see what they can do. First Porsche of the race is Sven Freitag in the Pit Speed Racing number 911 car. Very excellent performance from these guys so far. They're about 8 tenths back from P1, but they're comfortably about 500ths of a second in front of P9. And of course, in a Porsche, that rear-engined car has quite a lot of rear-end happiness, so it's good to see that these guys are keeping control of that. Behind them, yet another Aston Martin, that's Badowski, that's in that car. Number 202 of Kaju Racing that's in this one. A nice orange livery that these guys have on that car. Brian Cheshire, one of the fastest drivers in ACM Racing, in the CRT Mustang that you see there, car number 69, is rounding out the final corner, coming across the start-finish straight, potentially finishing a lap, potentially starting a new one. It looks like that was an outlap that Ryan was previously on, so Ryan will be no doubt starting right up to the top of the leaderboard at the end of this lap. He's, as mentioned, one of the fastest drivers in ACM, has an illustrious history with many wins, many podiums and many fastest laps. So this is one of the drivers to keep an eye on for today's race. Marcin Skibor having a few issues with traffic here, it seems, as his Polish Onion League Racing, the RTG race team, navigates through that corner. That'll probably be a bin lap for the number 224 car, but they've got 6 minutes left to qualifying, plenty more time to set another lap, and it looks like they are continuing as is, which is good to see. Jake Robinson in the Valkenhurst Motorsport number 68 BMW. That's the first BMW that we've seen of today's race. Currently in P13, they've got a 140.7. They're only about a second back from P1, so they've got plenty of time to try and find. They're about 600ths of a second up at the moment on their lap time, but they have got a little bit of traffic around, so hopefully they can get past that without losing too much time. Kozlowski in the Garage Racing team, that's the first McLaren that we've seen of today's race so far. They're in the number 888 car, about 1.5 seconds back from P1, so this is where the gaps start getting a little bit more extreme. Garage Racing team is out on lap at the moment, so we'll be seeing what they can do to improve on their time. Just behind them, got another McLaren for the racing team Echo, the number 847 Callum Mooney, Irish driver, taking the wheel. Number 847 car currently 2/10 up on their fastest lap time. They need about 5/10 to improve up 2 positions, but only a few hundredths to improve into P14, so we'll be seeing what they can do by the end of this lap. They've got a bit of traffic in front, hopefully nothing too major. I'm just looking, that's an excellent livery on that McLaren which is in front of them. I'll try and catch a number to see if I can see that livery in a more close up. It was definitely McLaren, potentially of the Dive Bomb SRT Endurance, and there you have it, an excellent looking livery there in a nice Kyalami themed or a South African themed McLaren. You've got the green on the front, the red on the rear right, and the blue on the rear left as well, which is, I must say, excellent to see. Nice bit of yellow on the floor of that car as well. That's a little message, I don't give a damn, on the rear of that wing as well. Fantastic to see from the Dive Bomb team. I'm looking forward to seeing this livery excel through those positions throughout the race. Maurice Schwander is the first and I believe only Lexus off the grid today. Currently in P18, they're about 1.7 seconds back from the leader with a 141.4. Maurice is sat in the pit lane at the moment, will potentially come out of the pits over the next 4 minutes or so before the end of qualifying to try and set another lap, but at the moment they're in the pits happy with their time. Mark Dalby in the Atlas competition, Ferrari, the number 986 car here, coming around the first corner, getting a new lap set up. They're about 1.8 seconds back from the top of the field at the moment. They're about 1/10 up already on their lap, so plenty of improvement to come for Samath there in the number 986 car, so we'll be seeing what they can do. Kimberly Holder in the Turn 1 sim racing team. Very nice looking McLaren there, nice in purple and green, with a few sponsors on there as well. They're in P20 at the moment. Number 134 McLaren is in the pit lane. Just finished their lap, will potentially be going out for another one in these finishing 3 minutes as well. Interesting to see from these guys. We'll see what they can do towards the end of this qualifying session. Neo Nilsson in the 267, interesting name there. Ferrari, they're about 2/10 down on their lap time at the moment. They need about 4/10 improvement to improve any positions, but of course we'll be seeing if Neo Nilsson can do that. Vanden Eend, I apologise if I pronounced that wrong, but they're in TG Aston Martin at the moment. They're in the pit lane as it currently stands, but they're only about 1/100th of a second slower than P21, so they've got some improvement to potentially find out there. 2 minutes left to qualifying. They'll have to get out in the next 40 seconds or so if they want to start another lap, but hopefully we'll see these guys back out there and back setting laps. Francesca Rosicki is out on a lap at the moment. This is the second Porsche that we've seen on the seal at the field so far. The Threshold Racing team has a very nice purple and white livery themed car there. The Threshold Racing team coming through in towards sector 2 and is setting currently an improvement by 1/10. They're about 2.2 seconds back from the lead, but they only need to improve 2,000ths of a second to improve on the next position, which is very close indeed. I have a feeling towards the end of this lap, if Ruzicki keeps it clean, they will improve at least 1 position. Behind them, we've got Renault Cario, which is in the 488 Ferrari. Not a 488 Ferrari, but the number 488 Ferrari, if that makes sense. A little bit of confusion there with that number, but pitlanelab.com racing team is rounding out towards the final sector, final 3 corners of this lap. They're about 3/10 down on that as it currently stands, so no improvement is looking to be seen by them, but we'll see how it comes across the line. towards the front of the field, Ryan Cheshire has indeed improved on his lap time. The Mustang now finds himself in P4. They're not on a flying lap at the moment. They're just warming the tyres, ready for their next flying lap. So they'll be coming around the final corner, getting ready for a good start, and getting ready to bump up those positions as well. He's about 4/10 slower than P1 as it currently stands, but the CRT Mustang is going very strong in the qualifying session at the moment. That is a team of, I believe, about 6 or so drivers on that car. Yes, it is Callum Blake Brenner, Lance Simmons, Srinjay Das, Ryan Cheshire, and Tom Morris Jones in that Mustang. Very strong team indeed, heading out this qualifying so far. They're on a fast lap at the moment, so we'll be seeing what they can do with their times. But the only other person improving at the moment is Badowski. Number 202 car is coming through the final few corners, about 1/10 up on the lap time at the moment. That's enough to improve them potentially into P7, potentially P6, but he needs an extra couple hundredths of a second if he wants to make it work. And no, unfortunately missed out by just under 1/10 of a second there. Kaju Racing does have another attempt to manage to get across the line in enough time, so we'll be on another lap now. But of course those tyres will be a little bit more worn than the previous lap, but potentially a bit more up to temperature, so we'll see. Keep our eye on things this year and see what they can do. Massive improvement from Ben Zietz in the Cryonics Mercedes at the moment. It's showing to be about 4 seconds up on their lap time, which I don't believe to be true, but we'll be seeing where they come across the line. If it is 4 seconds, they've found a teleportation device or something similar, but we'll see where that Mercedes ends up. Ryan Cheshire is indeed improving on his lap time at the moment. Not too much from Ryan Cheshire, only about 1/10 or so in that Mustang, so certainly struggling to compete against those Aston Martins up at the top. He's going to be coming across the line, will definitely make it into P4, but it's not looking like it will be a P3. He's only about 1/10 up as he comes across the line, secures his place in P4. No one else behind him is on a massive improvement. So that's P4 for Ryan Cheshire in the number 69 car. He will be following behind Baldi in P1, Damiano in P2, and Klimchak in P3. It's an Aston Martin 123 for the starting grid of this 24-hour race. We'll be seeing what those Aston Martins can pull off during the rest of the race. But for the first lap, it'll be an Aston Martin Leeds Mustang. It's quite actually a collection of Mustangs there up at the top. It's Aston Martin ×3 and then Mustang ×4, so interesting start to say the least. Ben Zietz crosses the line, improves only slightly, not enough to gain a position, but does get a little bit more on P11. They're about 1/10 behind P9, 1/10 ahead of P11, so nice and in the middle there. And you can see that we have finished the qualifying session there, so that is the top 20 decided for the start of this race. We'll be forwarding into the race now. We'll be seeing what these drivers can do as we head in towards the starting grid. Yeah, drivers are on the grid, ready to go. They'll be applying the setups, their stints sorted out. Of course, in today's race, there is a 65-minute stint timer which is active. I apologise for any quick camera movement which happens here. We are sorted now though, so cars will be getting themselves ready for the start of this race. We have 3 Aston Martins up at the front, led by 2 ASD Romagnoli esports teams. You can see the 2 Aston Martins up at the front here looking very dominant ahead of the rest of the field. A very strong grid for the start of this race. We have about 35 or so teams on track ready to go. We've got about 2 minutes until the formation lap starts, and 2 minutes after that the race will get going. So we'll be seeing what these drivers can do and where they can place themselves. Of course, it's a 24-hour race, so what you see in the first hour or two won't match what the race results will look like, but of course will give us a good idea of who will be sort of dominant, who will have the fastest lap, and who will have the best chance at a podium as well. So we'll do a quick run through of the grid as it stands. You can see the 2 ASD Romagnoli esports Aston Martins up at the front. Followed by that we have the CRT Mustang, which was driven by Ryan Cheshire in qualifying. I believe he's doing the first 5 hours of the race in that Mustang as well, so he's going to be putting up quite a challenge to the drivers up in P1, 2 and 3. We'll be seeing what he can do throughout the rest. Following after the number 69 CRT Mustang, we have Lekaj in the number 330 Mustang. That's the very green Mustang to your bottom right. Just after that, we have two ISS Racing Team Mustangs as well. You can see the left-hand side and the right-hand side on track as well. The two American flag-themed Mustangs in P6 and P7. Just after that, we have Roberts in P8, the number 202, orange Aston Martin on the bottom left-hand side of your screen there, getting ready for the start of this race. Then we have the first Porsche just making it into the top 10 with their lap time in qualifying. That orange highlighted Porsche there, looking very nice. Just after that, we have the Mercedes of the Chronix Racing team there. And then the transmission sim racing Aston Martin on the right hand side, that's driven by Roberts potentially for the start of this race. You can see a very nice livery on that transmission sim racing team. A couple of hearts on there, a nice blend of pink to blue as well. We'll be seeing what they can do throughout this race as well. Another Aston Martin, this one's in P12, that's Skibor that's in that car. After that, Jake Robinson in the BMW, Kozlowski in the McLaren, followed by Mooney in the McLaren. Then we have Van Zyl in the Ferrari, in the McLaren of Garrido, Schwander in the Lexus on the left-hand side, which will pass in a second, Dalvi in the 986 Ferrari, and then Holder in the McLaren as well. So that rounds out the top 20 for the start of this race. You can see the cars passing the screen now before we jump back towards the start of the field. Top right of your screen, you can see the track map as well. You can see the drivers just going around that formation lap and just getting ready to get into their positions for the start. Warming up those tyres, getting some heat in the brakes, getting prepared for the first stint of this race. This race, as I said, has a 65-minute stint timer, so drivers will have to come in every 65 minutes. If they do it for longer than 65 minutes, they'll get a drive-through penalty, so those drivers will have to be managing those stints carefully and making sure that they can get back to the pit lane before that timer runs. See who's putting in the most effort into the tyres at the moment. Got not too much zigzagging going. There's a little bit there from Goderi in the ISS Racing Team Mustang. In how they start off. Garcia and the transmission racing team heating up those brakes, accelerating and decelerating once again, getting brakes ready for that turn one. Turn one, of course, here at Kyalami is quite a harsh braking zone. You have to slow it down from the longest straight on the track, get it ready for a couple tight corners for the rest of sector 1 before you head out onto another straight, rounding into sector 2. Sector 2 has a very long right-hander to start us off. You have to brake downshift a couple of gears and keep it close to the inside of that corner. It's quite a corner that you can lose quite a bit of time on in sector 2, so you have to take it steady, make sure you get the right entry, and if you're going side by side, make sure that you're not going too wide or too close to the inside of another driver. The rest of sector 2, you have got relatively tight left-hander before you have a relatively fast downhill section, a left-hander followed by a right-hander that extends upwards and up a hill. That's towards sector 3. Brake just after getting to the top of the hill. There's a little curb on the right hand side. That's what is used as the braking marker before a tight left-hand hairpin and going down the hill, which you just saw the cars do. Down the hill is flat out all the way up until about now, when the drivers will be braking as hard as they can for quite a tight right-hander that is just behind the cars on screen. For an acceleration out for a quick left-hander before a little lift, a little bit of dab of a brakes before this quick right-hander here. Jump on board, you can see that right-hander has quite an intense curb on the inside there. It can throw the car if you take it wrong, so some drivers will be taking that very carefully today. But just after that, you brake for the final corner. You round out the final corner carefully, making sure you're not exceeding the track limits, and you are out onto the start-finish straight. That was a lap of Kyalami. The cars are ready for their start. We have 3 Aston Martins up at the top, ready to go, led by 2 ASD Romagnoli esports teams are ready to go. Lights will be green in a matter of seconds, and it is Go, go, go! Green lights are on. The drivers are racing down towards Sector 1, Turn 1. The two Aston Martins up at the front looking strong, but the Mustang on the right-hand side using that acceleration to his advantage. Can have the outside line for the first corner here. Keeps it to the outside. Looks like the Aston Martin on the inside making the most of that inside line, but it will be the inside to the Mustang now, so we'll see if that Mustang can claim anything back. It's going to be side by side for the two Mustangs, actually. Ryan, once again, will be on the outside of that Mustang. A little bit unsteady there from Zanet Lekaj in the background. Nothing too significant though. He's going to be weaving now to try and get some extra heat into the tyres, break off that slipstream from Ryan, and try to maintain a hold of that P4 position. So very nice start from a lot of the drivers. You can see on the track map, a few yellow flags towards the rear of the grid, but nothing too significant, which is good to see. The drivers are all now filtering through Sector 2 carefully. We jump aboard the wing of Ryan to see all the drivers sort of snaking in and out further back. It looks like there's an Aston Martin, potentially of Garcia, looking to make a move here. It seems to have filtered into single file now though. So no move for these guys so far. Back up at the top, Baldi is having an excellent start to this race, about 5/10 up from their teammate Damiano at the moment. Of course, both ASD Romagnola esports drivers will be taking it steady, going side by side with each other, making sure they can't get into any accidents. Just behind them though, Klimczak will be putting the pressure on the Pulse Racing team. Aston Martin will be looking to do as much as he can in the first hour of this race. They'll be coming through this quite tight right-hander there. A little bit of grass touching from Damiano in front, but we're rounding out the final corner now, getting ready for the second lap of the race. And most drivers seem to have been getting through the first lap nice and steadily. There's a little bit of a hold up towards the rear. There's a gap that's opened up around about car number 58. I'll see if I can jump on board with theirs. That's Roy Zicki that's brought about a 2-second gap between him and P17. That's Schwander up front who has that gap. Just behind him, it's quite tight though. Hubert is currently trying to fend off P19 position from Diwali. Diwali going a little bit wide there into turn 1 actually, so losing out a little bit of time. Nothing too significant though. These drivers keeping it steady, keeping it good throughout the first and second lap. Of course, this race is 24 hours long. You don't want to be taking any unnecessary risks towards the start of this race, but they're running out the second lap now, and they're getting ready to power on down. So Kaderi is looking for a move around the outside of the Porsche, isn't able to get it done, but that Mustang is going to be looking certainly very greedy in the rear of that Porsche. That Porsche has managed to split up the ISS Racing Team Mustangs as it is so far. We'll be seeing if they can take any more on as it is, but as it stands, Kaderi is putting on that pressure to the Porsche at the moment. The Porsche is trying to keep it consistent, keep it clean throughout these corners and trying to match those times of those in front. A couple of guys in chat, if you are here supporting a specific team, let me know and I can jump on to watch them. It's been a clean start to the race so far, which is good to see, but we're seeing potentially a few penalties coming through over the next few minutes. That start of the race, obviously everyone close together, and we have a rule here in ACM where any penalties automatically increase, so any minor bump or sort of any major bump is heavily penalised on the first lap, so we'll definitely see some penalties coming through for these drivers. Kaderi going around the final corner though, putting on some pressure actually to a Mustang just in front. I believe that's the Mustang of Ryan Cheshire, who's dropped back a little bit. He's now down in P7, only about 2/10 in front of Matteo Kaderi here, so potentially going to be a look down the inside there. There was a look. Ryan Cheshire did brake quite late there though, so was able to fend it off quite well. Kaderi just decides to back off, keep it steady for now. No need to make any risky overtakes. Ryan Cheshire is of course a very fast driver here in ACM, so you don't want to be putting too much pressure on him. We'll only reciprocate it 10 times more. But coming out of that corner now, both are looking quite strong. No position changes as it currently stands, but we'll keep our eye on the gaps. Maurice Schwander also looking for a battle with Van Zyl. Car number 725 just ahead, looking to fend off that Lexus. That Lexus, of course, is quite fast on the straight lines, so we'll be looking to make a move down towards the first corner potentially, as long as we can keep it close. A couple of the drivers are relatively close. We've got Davey here in the Aston Martin looking for a position on yet another Ferrari, about 3/10 between those two as it currently stands. The TG Motorsports Aston Martin currently in P23, looking for a P22, looking for potentially more positions after that as well. Ryan Cheshire relatively in the middle of Freitag and Kaderi. front and behind him. Of course, he dropped back those few positions on the previous lap, so he's now just looking for consistency rather than speed. Of course, he'll be looking to gain as much of an advantage as he can during these first few laps, but nothing too significant. It's a 24-hour race. He's just doing the start, so he just wants to get a good position for the rest of the team. I believe he is the fastest driver on the team. There are a few other fast drivers on there, like Tom Morris-Jones, but of course none as fast as Ryan Cheshire. So him at the start for the first 5 hours will put them in a good position, ready for the rest of the team for the rest of the race. As mentioned, if you're in chat, you want us to review a certain driver, let us know, and I can do so. Got a couple questions. What's your favourite livery on the grid? I believe that would be the McLaren you see here from the Dive-Bomb SRT endurance team here. You got the nice Kyalami themed South African McLaren here with the green on the front, the red on the side, and the blue on the other. Very nice lines all over that car. I'm a big fan of that livery. I'll be looking forward to seeing some moves being made. But speaking of moves being made, Cullen Mooney is looking for a position on Robinson at the moment. Looking around the outside of that BMW, getting a little bit close for comfort there. And it's now being tapped, oh, unfortunately, by the Ferrari just behind. That's unfortunate to see. It's going to send another cars to go around and avoid that car. But unfortunately, he's dropped back a few positions. Seems like he's getting back going now, though. It was unfortunate to see. The stewards will, of course, be taking a look into that. You can see a few penalties already popping up on the left-hand side of your screen. We've got a 10-second for Maurice Schwander in the 992 Lexus, a 10-second for Marquez in 45 Ferrari, and of course, potentially going to be a penalty there as well. I believe that was Van Zyl that made that contact, so potentially one for the stewards to be penalising. We'll see some penalties coming into our screens soon enough. So this is the first 5 minutes of the race gone so far, as Ray the Derg says in chat. Lots of the race left, recoverable, certainly is. Hubert will be looking for as much time as he can gain. There's an entire day to make back those positions, so plenty of time to be had. And of course, I will be in support of this livery as well. No bias from the event manager, of course, but there we have it. So Ryan Cheshire now putting some pressure on Freitag. He's managed to pull away about 9/10 from Guderi behind, and he's now putting some pressure on the Porsche just in front of him. Nothing significant so far. The Aston Martins up front are certainly pulling away from the rest of the field. Klimchak has dropped back a little bit more from the two in front of him. He's still got Lekaj just behind him looking for a position, but Baldi has a 2-second gap over Damiano at the moment. Damiano 1.5 seconds over Klimchak, and Klimchak of course only about a second in front of Lekaj, so potentially going to be a battle there for P3, but it looks like the Aston Martins holding it out strong in front of the pack so far. Ryan Cheshire keeping it clean into these corners. He has dropped back a little bit now, 6/10 back from that Porsche, so isn't quite as fast as he usually is. What we do have here in ACM as well is of course the driver balanced of power, so you can see that Ryan Cheshire, who we are on board with, has 3 kilograms on his car. Of course, it is as an entire team. Ryan has about 20 kilos as by himself, but with the team it balances out to about plus 3 kilograms. So he will be, of course, at disadvantage compared to those around him. You can see a couple of cars on there with negative ballast, a couple with positive ballast, and a couple with no ballast as well. P1, Baldi has actually got minus 1 kilograms of ballast, so the other drivers on that team potentially lower or slower in the car, whereas Damiano just behind them has 5 kilograms of ballast, so potentially has the ability to make the most of the speed over a length of time. But it'd be interesting to see what Damiano can do in this first stint. Klimchak still maintaining about 1.3 seconds from Damiano, but is still only about 0.8 seconds back from the Mustang. You see the Mustang bright green just behind him there, taking that corner beautifully, closing up in the braking zone, but of course that gap widens once they reach a straight as well. Seems like there's a blue flag there on the left hand side. It's the first blue flag that we've seen in the race, but they've given way nicely to Matthias Klimchak there, and hopefully will do the same for Lekaj as well. Pulls over to the left hand side, lets off the accelerator gently, and allows Lekaj to get by. That's exactly what we want to see here. ACM not disrupting these faster drivers. It's unfortunate to see a blue flag this early into the race, but of course early pit stops, early damage does of course cause those to happen. So good to see so far. We'll hope that it continues throughout the race. Pulse Racing Aston Martin just trying to gain that time, just trying to gain those tenths of a second gap from the Mustang behind. At the moment, not able to do too much, but was maintaining that P3 at the moment. Rounding out the final corner for the 6th lap of the race, then this race is certainly going by fast. 10 minutes have passed so far. We've got a relatively similar start of the field. We have P1, 2 and 3 who are exactly the same, but there has been, of course, the position change. Ryan Cheshire dropped back about 3 positions since the start of this race. He's now in P7, is fighting for that position as well, but has allowed Lecage, Paoletti and Freitag to take those positions. Freitag, of course, who is just in front, has gained 3 positions since the start of this race, so a very good start at Speed Racing Porsche there. And of course, Paoletti has also gained 2 positions since the start of this race, which is good to see. Now up into P5. Couple of the position gainers on this race. Roizicki is having a good race so far. 5 positions gained since the start of this race. A little bit of a flash there for the Lexus in front. Started in P22, now in P17, so of course gaining those 5 positions. 5 positions also being gained by Finocchiaro in the 488 numbered Ferrari. Starting in P25, now in P20, of course looking for more positions as well. There is actually one driver who has gained 7 positions since the start of this race. That is Diogo Marquez, number 45 Ferrari, gaining 7 positions since the start of this race, but also picking up a 10-second penalty, which you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. So unfortunate to see from Diego, but hopefully the ACM racing team is able to continue going and doesn't lose out too much as a result of that. On the other hand, the driver who has lost the most positions is unfortunately Sam Zavisa, who has lost 8 positions since the start of this race in the Ferrari 488. That is actually a Ferrari 488, not the numbered 488. Very confusing on the grid here today, but Sam is following up the rest of the grid as it currently stands. That 488, of course, is a slower car, so it is expected to be behind the other drivers, but of course we'll be seeing if they can pick up the places throughout the rest of the race as well. Another interesting fact of this race so far, we have the fastest speed trap time, or fastest speed trap speed set by certain drivers. It's set by 4 drivers at the moment who have all set 245 kilometers an hour. Interestingly enough, it is 3 Mustangs which have done that and 1 Aston Martin. The Aston Martin to have done that is Badowski, who does have a little bit of slipstream from the Mustangs in front, so that's potentially where that speed trap came from. It's interesting to see all 4 drivers setting the same lap time there. Freitag getting past a couple of positions there. I think it was actually Kaderi who lost out on a few positions potentially. Jumping to 7, allowing Freitag and Cheshire to get through. Paoletti doing a similar thing there, losing out a few positions, reshuffling the order, allowing Ryan Cheshire back into P6 and allowing Freitag into P5. It's been an excellent race so far for Freitag. He's gained, as it stands, 4 positions since the start of this race and is in P5 at the moment, so a very strong start and hopefully a race that will continue for the Speed Racing team. Gaps have certainly started to spread out. Those Aston Martins up at the top are still as strong as ever. Zanet Lecage is struggling to maintain that 1 second gap. It's about 1.2 at the moment. Looking to gain that speed down the straight. There it goes to 1 second, but it did break a little bit too late on that first corner. Goes a little bit wide and loses out those couple of tenths. Again, the Aston Martin here certainly is quite fast. Someone in chat asking to see the car number 455. That's the Transmission Racing Team Aston Martin that was requested there. The Aston Martin there looking very nice in the pink and blue livery. Currently in P11, they have gained no positions but also lost no positions since the start of this race, which is good to see. No sort of accidents, no mishaps or anything like that. They're just keeping it consistent, which is what you need to do in these sort of races, and making the most of the Aston Martin's power here. As mentioned, the Aston Martin is, of course, one of the fastest cars at Kyalami. It's certainly a popular one. You can see quite a few on the left-hand side of your screen. But, of course, the Mustang and the Lexus as well are favourable cars here. The Mustang and the Lexus have the advantage in the straights. Kyalami has quite a few straights. We're heading on to one of the straights now. And while it does have a corner, it's not one that you lift the car at. As you can see the upshift there from Maddie Garcia as they head towards the braking zone of this corner. Making the most of the speed will be the Mustangs and the Lexus, looking to gain those positions on those straights and see what they can do. We'll jump on board with Lekaj at the moment as he comes out the final corner and heads across to start finish straight. It's going to be coming across the line, getting ready to start the 8th lap or 10th lap of the race actually, as it will be 1.4 seconds back from Klimchak, so he's certainly losing a little bit of time each lap. He did improve on the previous lap, but he is still dropping that time ever so often. So Zanet Lekaj certainly struggling in that Mustang against the Aston Martins. Let's have a look. Lekaj actually has minus 7 kilograms of ballast on that Mustang, so he's slightly advantaged by the ballast, but you can see it's not allowing him to have too much of an advantage. He's still maintaining his position nicely, and that's the exact target of the ACM balance of power there. It takes into account every driver in the team's laps, every lap that they have done in ACM that has been valid compared to everyone else and where they are in relation to everyone else, and therefore giving them a ballast on those times. So of course, taking in every lap time, we have about 700,000 laps in the ACM racing database, which is a vast store of races. We have about 800 or so races that we have done across multiple games here in ACM, so plenty of data for us to use, and you can see where this data comes into play here. Ryan Cheshire looking to gain a position there, 0.3 seconds back from the Porsche at the moment. Looking to put some pressure on. The Porsche goes slightly wide there on exit, but nothing too significant. Able to keep control of the car, get a nice corner through the final chicane there. Comes out the final corner, pedal to the metal, that throttle down, that fuel flow going, getting that slipstream from the Porsche in front. You can see just how quickly that Mustang is gaining, but not enough time to gain that position in turn one. Has a tighter apex compared to that Porsche though, so he's able to make the most of that, add on a little bit more pressure to that car. The Porsche in front will of course be seen in the mirrors the size of the Mustang. You can see here, top of your screen, the Mustang is visible all over it, and as that Mustang gets closer, it does look certainly quite big. So that Porsche will be keeping an eye on their rear view mirror, keeping an eye on that gap and seeing what they can do with it. See that that Mustang behind, closing up that gap, invisible, and making themselves present. Paoletti all over the rear of his teammate at the moment. That's Guderi in front. Tighter line for Paoletti, so potentially going to be a position to be fought going into this corner. We're going to Helicam, see these two Mustangs side by side here. It's going to be later on the brakes for Paoletti as they go over the inside. Keep it tight to the apex, and that is Guderi now down in P8. So that was a very nice overtake from Paoletti. They're making the most of the speed that they had out of that corner, making the most of braking into the corner, braking nicely and gaining the advantage on corner exits. So very nice to see there from Rocco, overtaking his teammate nicely, not causing any incident or anything, which is exactly what we want to see. It's overall been a very clean start to this race. We've only had a few penalties applied to some of these cars. We'll go towards the rear of the grid. You only see about 5 or so penalties applied, which is fantastic to see from these drivers. Of course, there have been plenty of battles going ahead throughout here as well. Ryan Cheshire, speaking of which, now putting some more pressure on that Porsche, potentially more closer now to be able to make a move, but nothing made in towards turn one. Again, it's a tighter line for Ryan Cheshire going into turn one there. Not able to make anything work. Been a spin for car number 222 up ahead. Hopefully they are out of the way. Yep, they're on the inside there, out of the way of the drivers. Hopefully able to get back racing though, and won't be at too much of a disadvantage. But as it stands, Ryan Cheshire still putting on that pressure, about 2/10 back from Freitag at the moment. The closest battle that we have on track. Ryan, of course, started in P4, dropped back a few positions early on into the race, and is now trying to find those positions back. You see the Aston Martins up ahead there. The Pulse Racing Aston Martin is the first one that you can see, but they are certainly pulling away from the rest of the field. The cars up front as well also have about 3 seconds gap between each other, so they are certainly in the advantage. There's been a fight in P17. Ruzicki is looking for P16. Schwander, I think, might have just gained that position actually as they go through those corners. A little bit of lag there. All seems to be good though. Rooney is also looking for a position fight here as well. He's about 3/10 back, but unfortunately unsettling themselves over the curb there, and that's unfortunate to see. The commentator's curse there, playing out an action. Team Mecha unfortunately having a spin there. Hopefully we're able to get back safely into the racing though. They got a little bit of damage on the front of that McLaren. Hopefully nothing too significant. As there was a little disappearance of the cars there. Hopefully everything is okay. Hopefully that was just a local issue on the server. I'll keep my eye on things. Right, Cheshire looking for a position now though. Looking for a move onto the inside, but it's not going to be made on that corner. He certainly put the pressure on though. Made himself known as it was. He's dropped back about 4/10 now from Freitag. Badowski looking for a fight though. Gadiri looking to defend that position though. He's also got to keep an eye on behind though, because Zietz is looking for a position on Badowski as well. These guys haven't lost or gained positions since the start of this race, so we'll be looking to fight in these positions now. We're about 20 minutes in. Keep an eye on all these battles in the top 10. We'll also try and keep an eye on the gaps further down the grid as well. Ruzicki is still about 0.3 seconds back from Schwander as it currently stands, but nothing too major for these guys. So we'll keep our eye on things, as I said. Ryan Cheshire as he comes through the final few corners now, about 5/10 back from the Porsche. Did unfortunately lose out a bit of time throughout that lap. Has closed up slightly on that final corner. He's going to have to get a good exit onto the start finish straight though. As he's not going for the slipstream, he's going for the inside line actually. Eventually looking to cover a shorter distance. He's gaining on that Porsche, but it's not going to be enough by the time you reach that 100-meter braking zone there. And you've got blue flagged Ferrari in front as well. So was that server lag? I can't confirm or deny whether that was. It could have been a local issue for me. I have had some issues with the Wi-Fi recently, but as I'm not currently in the stewarding box, I can't confirm or deny whether it was server lag or not. It's best to ask in Discord if it was, but it seems like the server's all stable now, and my connection is all stable as well, so hopefully nothing further from this. Right, Cheshire still putting on that pressure, but we'll jump back on board with Ruzicki and Schwander. It seems like Schwander made a move into, or Schwander was overtaken during the previous lap. I unfortunately missed that as I was looking in chat, but Schwander is still putting himself present in the mirrors of Ruzicki. A couple of the battles that were happening though. Ben Zietz is still on the rear of Badowski. Badowski on the rear of Gadiri. We've had some support in chat as well for Badowski, so hopefully Badowski will be able to make some overtakes throughout the next few laps or so. There's been a Porsche up ahead that's potentially Freitag. Oh no, I think it was a blue flag Porsche that was making a few wide turns there, unfortunately, getting in the way of the drivers, but they are pulling across to the side of the track now, just letting other people by and not causing any issue, which is good to see. Baldi in the lead, not avoiding any hairy moments. Yep, certainly is. Has a 4-second gap over anyone else at the moment. Baldi has a fantastic lead for the ASD Romagnole Esports Racing Team, which is good to see. Hopefully they can keep that going. They have lost a little bit of time to Damiano behind, but nothing too significant. We'll jump back on board with Badowski as that gap is closing now to just 1/10 between these two drivers. You can see that Aston Martin all over the rear of that Mustang there. You can see just how much pressure is being put onto that Mustang. as they head towards the second sector of the track. It was a better corner entry for that Mustang, but it's a better apex for Badowski's. Gained a little bit of time throughout that corner. Aston Martin making the most of their cornering ability, keeping it relatively wide from the apex there, but also getting a good exit, not touching any grass. Keeping it tight to the apex into here as well, though, getting a nice switch, not using too much of that curve on the inside on the exit, and getting a little bit of time to that Mustang in front, which is good to see. Braking zone just before this curve on the right hand side, braking as hard as you can down into about first or second gear, getting a nice steady acceleration out of that corner, heading down the hill towards sector 3 as well. Getting a bit of clean air there for that Aston Martin, has dropped back about 5/10 from the Mustang in front, so he's looking for a little bit more space to try and get himself ready for the position. Of course, when you're behind someone, you can learn where they make mistakes, you can learn where they are slowest, and then you can plan your overtake based on that. It's a smart thing to do, especially here at Kyalami, where there are quite a few fast drivers, and there are quite a few fast cars like Mustangs. Quite a few Aston Martins. So Freitag is getting close to Lekaj, but Freitag is also having to keep his eye on Ryan Cheshire just behind them. The gaps between these guys are about 7/10. It's the closest that we have on track at the moment. There is a 5/10 gap between Hayanov and Salise, which is further back, but I believe these guys are towards the very rear of the grid, so potentially no positions gained here. As mentioned, this race is part of the 2026 Endurance Series. It's a race that is hosted every 3 weeks here at ACM, between 4 and 24 hours long. This, of course, is a 24-hour race at Kyalami. Next time we have a 7-hour race at Nürburgring, and after that we have a 4-hour race at Indianapolis as well. Plenty to get into the racing here with ACM. We have some sprint races during the week as well. Tomorrow we have the GT3 Sunday Series at Zolder. Monday we have 45 minutes of the Nürburgring in Porsche Cups. Then we have a 100-minute race at Paul Ricard on Thursday, followed by a 45-minute race at Imola on Friday. So plenty of action to get in on here at ACM Racing. If you want to visit us, want to get involved on the racing, it is acm-racing.com/events, and you can view all the upcoming races, all the upcoming action, which will get started. As it stands, the gaps have actually spread out a little bit. Ryan Cheshire is now about 7/10 back from Freitag. Freitag is about 1 second back from Lekaj, and it's a similar thing for Palasi, Gideri, Badowski and Zeitz, who are about 5/10 to 1 second away from each other. So these gaps certainly starting to spread out now as we head towards the final half an hour of the first hour. I'll be your commentator for this first hour to hour and a half. Seems like the action is slowly drifting away. We do have a little bit of action towards the rear of the field. Rosicky has dropped back a few positions during the previous lap or so, and is now in P19, defending that position against Dalby in P20. And then Hubert as well is now putting pressure on Schwander. Hubert, who we saw have a mistake, or saw getting spun earlier on in this race, seems to have repaired that damage now. Actually, as we have a closer look at the front of this McLaren in just a second, we'll see hopefully the front bumper of that thing is repaired, and it looks like it is. So they've been into the pits, repaired the car quickly, and got back out into racing. They've only dropped into P17, which is good to see from these guys, so hopefully they can keep going. Oh, apparently it wasn't them that had a spin, it was Echo that had a spin. That's correct, sorry. I stuck the two cars there, both fantastic liveries, both similar liveries, and both in McLarens as well, which is where that mistake came from. But good to see from Hubert anyways. I believe he is down 1 position since the start of this race, so unfortunate to see, but he is pressuring P16 at the moment, looking for another position. Schwander has currently gained 2 positions, so is one of the most successful drivers towards this area of the grid. It doesn't help that there's 3 McLarens in the same colours. Yeah, exactly that. Got a couple of McLarens all in sort of relatively same livery, but this one does take the win for me. That Kyalami coloured, South Africa coloured livery is looking fantastic. And is about 4/10 back from Schwander at the moment. We'll jump on board with Freitag though, as Ryan Cheshire and Freitag did just swap positions. We'll see if we can go back and catch that position change as they come through the first corner. It's side by side between these two drivers. Come around the second corner now. Mustang is on the outside, just avoiding that car on that corner there as well. So drag race down in towards sector 2. It seems like the Mustang is able to make the most of the speed that they had and just gain that position on the inside of the long right-hander, which was good to see from Ryan Cheshire. Freitag now putting the pressure back on for P5 position. He's also 2.6 seconds ahead P7, which is good to see, so he's not got too much to focus on. Guderi is only half a second behind Paoletti, but he's also only 3/10 in front of Badowski as well. So that orange Aston Martin making himself visible in the mirrors, making himself obvious, and trying to cause as much distraction as he can as well. You see the orange Aston Martin in the mirrors at the top of your screen. It'll certainly be very visible to Matteo Guderi. Potentially only a move made in towards the first corner here. We'll jump on board the wing of Guderi, see the Aston Martin planning anything, but that Mustang has the speed down the start-finish straight, is able to just pull away from that Aston Martin, even if the Aston Martin has a slipstream, which is crazy to see. But Aston Martin able to get a good first corner, able to get a nice sort of rotation there. He's able to stick on the rear of that Mustang. We'll jump on board with Freitag as he is now behind the Mustang of Cheshire. Cheshire's about 1.3 seconds back from Lekaj, who is his next target. Hubert is now side by side with Schwander. We were eyeing on this battle a lap ago, just seeing if there was any position changes, but at the moment there's nothing. Hubert is putting the pressure on though. It seems like it was a late lunge or a late break from Schwander there, allowing Hubert to get himself present on the inside, but not able to make any positions out of it. Just looking for a better corner at the moment, which of course is the best plan for things to happen. Red Bull liveries make me worry. Signs of good and calm drivers. Yep, that's certainly a good point. A lot of the Red Bull racing liveries seem to have quite a few incidents in these races, but so far there's nothing been too major on the stewarding report. We've got a couple 5-second, couple 10-second, and a 15-second penalty on the leaderboard on the left-hand side. But aside from that, it is a relatively clean start to the race, which is good to see from these drivers. Freitag is now gaining actually on Ryan Cheshire. He's on the straight though, so he's going to be potentially losing out down the straight. Yep, that's exactly how it is. It's gone from 3/10 to 4/10 between these two. Potentially going to be able to get a stronger corner later break, very late break there from Freitag, but is able to maintain the position. Seems like car number 88 on the outside there was having a little bit of a spin. That's Herloff that's on the outside there. That is actually one of the Red Bull Racing Ferraris, ironically mentioning after the previous comment in chat, but they are waiting to rejoin safely, which they are doing now in a nice gap, which is good to see. So they are back to racing. They're P32 at the moment. Did lose out on a couple of positions unfortunately, but they're only 2.5 seconds back from Schnecki, who is the driver in front of them. We'll jump back on board with Hubert. He's looking up the inside into turn 1, but nothing to be made there. It was a little bit too far back to go for any specific moves, but it was good to see the attempt either way. Hubert putting the pressure on. You can see the exhausts from the Lexus in front spitting out those flames. Of course, that gap has certainly closed during that previous corner. Hubert certainly has the advantage of lines. The Lexus will, of course, be making the most of their speed on the straights. All of the rear, unfortunately, going a bit wide there, actually making an adjustment mid-corner and settling themselves as they head through there. We'll jump into the interior camera. You can see the steering inputs from Philip Hubert there, the dive bomb SRT endurance car. Keeping control of that thing. Of course, he has traction control to benefit, but the higher your traction control is, the slower you are on exit the corner, so he'll be running it as low as he can, potentially even on traction control 0 if his right foot is soft enough. Nothing major for this lap though. It's still going to be a 3/10 gap between Schwander and Hubert. better corner there for Hubert. Is all over the rear of Schwander. Is going to be breaking a similar point, getting a nice hook on that corner there. He's looking at the inside for the final corner. He's going to be darting back in line though as Schwander breaks a little bit later. It's going to be even on the exit of that corner. It's going to be a slipstream down in towards turn 1. We'll see if Hubert makes the dive down to the inside. Of course, this time he is much closer than he was on the previous lap, so he's able to make that position gained. He's going to look to the inside, potentially going to break later. There it is, up the inside, and keeps it nice and tight to the apex. Schwander does look up the inside, does try and fight that position, but it is unfortunately going to look like a position taken there. Unfortunately, getting over the apex there from that Lexus, managing to keep a control of it though. Masterful car control from that Lexus, able to keep a hand of that thing. The curbs here at Kyalami are very unforgivable, so it was good to see he was able to maintain control of that car, but unfortunately that was a position lost for Schwander there. He did put a fight up and he did make himself known, but Hubert is up into P16 and that South African themed livery is looking fantastic. Got some support from Philip in chat as well, which is good to see. Up at the front, Podolski has dropped back to 1 second away from Guderi, and that gap of course won't be closing relatively soon. Guderi is also about 1 second back from Paoletti as well. Paoletti about 1.7 back from Freitag. So these guys are sort of spreading out slightly, but not doing it too fast. They're keeping tabs on each other throughout the start of this race. Ryan Cheshire though, looking to gain some time on Lecage in front of him. He did just blip into less than 1 second, but he is now 1 second back from Lecage. Looking to enforce a mistake in these next few laps, try and gain those positions. We've got 20 minutes left of the stint time, 25 minutes or so left of the stint time before the drivers come into the pit lane. Swap out drivers, swap out tyres, add some more fuel into the car, and potentially serve any penalties as well. We've had someone asking chat about Calendar 330s livery. Calendar 330, if I just find them on grid, is Zanet Lecage. I commented earlier, very nice livery on that Mustang. A very nice sort of separated livery on the left and right hand sides as the lines sort of jaggedy. I'm not sure how best to describe that. A very nice livery between that car though, as it sort of drifts from yellow to black towards the rear. It's good to see a nice little highlight of red on there as well. Of course, the ACM Racing liveries have that highlight of red present as their main theme for liveries, so I am a big fan of that red highlight. But unfortunately, the best livery of today is the Dybom SRT car, who did win the livery award from me personally, anyways. This driver, this team, supporting the South African colours. Even having the QR code on the back supporting those colours, which is good to see. Rosicky is now closed that gap to Holder in front and is looking for a position to be gained. He's about 2/10 back as it stands at the moment. He's looking to put that pressure on significantly Holder in front. Looks at the inside, potentially going to be a dive, potentially a overtake there, and that is exactly what has happened. Rosicky able to put that pressure on, able to stick his nose on the inside, able to get the apex, and Holder just allowed that position to be gained nicely, which is good to see from Rosicky. Rosicky is now 7/10 back from Schwander and is looking for another position to be gained. Update on the front of the pack, Ryan Cheshire is dropped back a little bit from Lecage, now 1.2 seconds between these two drivers. Of course, Lecage has the advantage of ballast during these laps, so we'll be setting faster lap times, but over the course of a race will be potentially slower as well. Freitag is back on board with Ryan Cheshire though. Ryan Cheshire losing out a little bit more time during the rest of that episode, now 1.6 seconds back from Lecage, allowing Freitag to gain that time as well. A little bit of a grass touch there for both drivers, but nothing too significant. A blue flag letting both of those drivers through nicely. I have to say, from what I've seen so far, blue flag driving from these guys is very nice. I'm sure that will degrade as the drivers get slightly tired across this 24-hour race though, so unfortunately you might see some blue flag incidents, but so far they've been pulling over and letting these guys through in good positions to see. Podolski who has the support of many people in chat, is only 1.3 seconds back from Gadiri at the moment. Gadiri, of course, is about 3 seconds back from Freitag as well. As the McLaren spun around there on the exit. I'm not sure which McLaren that was. It looks like it was car number 222. That's Haihanov that's having that issue there. Hopefully they're able to get back into racing nicely. I'm going to wait until car 68 passes most likely and then get going. Yep, that's exactly what they do, which is nice to see before car 888 comes around the corner and will probably take them. Ianov has plenty of time to the drivers around him though. He is in P35 at the moment with Grand Bus a few laps back in that Porsche, and Visa a few laps front as well, so nothing significant to worry about too much for that driver. So good to see that they can recover from the yellow flag nicely. Kimberly Holder did put some pressure on Schwander into that corner, but Schwander was able to fend it off. So actually it looks like Rosicki has been overtaken. Rosicki actually had a mistake or an incident at some point. I'll go back and see if I can see something. As they head into turn 1, it was an overtake attempt by Schwander. There was a little bit of a bump between the two cars, and just getting them steady there did Rosicki into the first corner. And then that McLaren was able to put some pressure on as a result. So unfortunate to see from Rosicki there. All of his hard work has been nullified from that little bit of contact there, but the stewards will be taking a look into it. And of course, whoever is found at fault will potentially get a penalty from it as well. Schwander does have a 10-second penalty as it stands already, so we'll have to serve that in the next pit stop, but only about 20 minutes or so until that pit stop. Schwander taking the outside that corner there, and it's going to be later on the brakes, very late on the brakes for Rosicki there. Not able to make the most of the inside this time. It was claimed by Schwander way before the corner, and he managed to maintain a hold of that P17 position. Freitag is now 4/10 behind Ryan Cheshire. I'll keep my eye on both of these gaps to see if I can see anything significant. Rosicki 0.3 seconds from Schwander. On board with Freitag. The Mustangs just ahead of Lecage and Cheshire. That gap certainly coming down between all three of these drivers. It's now 1.2 seconds between Lecage and Cheshire, and Lecage is about 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds back from the top three as well. So those gaps up at the front certainly spreading out, but the gaps towards the mid-pack are actually still quite close, which is good to see. Madi Garcia is also looking for a position on Zeets. This one's been brewing for a while. The Transmission Racing Team number 455 Aston Martin, about 7/10 back from Zeets at the moment. Not clipping the inside of that curve too much. And a nice exit there as well. Most of the braking zone, slightly wide of the apex, but not too significant. Good exit from Garcia. It's about 6/10 back from Zeets now as it stands, so I'm looking for potentially some slipstream in towards turn 1, but if not, I think sector 2 is the strongest for the Aston Martins here, so that'll be where the time will begin. Freitag still 4 turns away from Cheshire. Schwander holding on to a gap. Actually losing out on a gap there, just as I mentioned it. He did lose that position, so we'll go back and replay and have a look at what happened. So coming down into the corner, braking in a good spot, but just going slightly too wide there, and losing out a little bit of time to Holder behind him. So Rosicki has gained that position recently. I'm not sure when exactly that was, but Holder is now putting pressure on Schwander. Holder is also having to fend off from Brandon Ian behind, who is in another Aston Martin. About 7/10 between those guys. Bit of a deep turn 1 for Kimberly Holder there. The turn 1 sim racing McLaren having to fend off a little bit more now from that Aston Martin. The Porsche on the inside, I believe that might have potentially been the Porsche of Rosicki that had a spin there, and yes, it was, unfortunately, coming out of the corner, getting across the curb and not able to maintain control of that Porsche, losing it as a result of the suspension, had to spin around, get back going again. So unfortunate to see from Rosicki, but he'll be able to get back into racing. It's not too significant in the first sort of hour or so of a 24-hour race, so we'll be seeing what he can do throughout the rest of this time. Freitag is now all over the rear of Ryan Cheshire. It's not often that we see people putting pressure on Ryan Cheshire in P5, but it seems like Ryan Cheshire is certainly getting the interest in the rear view mirror. As they head down towards sector 2 now, it's going to be later on the brakes for Freitag. It's going to be close at apex of Freitag as well, potentially. The tyres of Ryan Cheshire's Mustang are at a suffering position now, but we'll see how this plays on. Freitag certainly getting all of these corners perfect. Getting the apexes a nice bit of curb there on the inside, not too much to the right hand side, but enough to hook the car around the corner, keeping it almost flat around that corner. As he had a little bit of a lift, but nothing too significant. We've had someone in the chat mention an overtake for 9th place coming soon. That's the battle that we were on between Matty Garcia and Zeitz. Zeitz is defending that P9 position in his Mercedes, and Garcia is of course looking to take that position around the gaps and see where things are. But further back as well, Van der Nied is looking for a P18 position on Holder. That gap is certainly coming down, actually having to back off a little bit in that corner. Racing is certainly spicing up. We've just got less than 20 minutes of the stint timer remain. Guys will be coming into the pit lane soon enough. Garcia ready on the back of that Mercedes, probably not close enough for an overtake into turn 1, but we'll see what Matty Garcia can gain in towards the first corner. Racing down the pit straight, braking at the 100-metre board, not able to make that position there. Unfortunate to see in the first corner, but he's still putting that pressure onto the Mercedes. Actually had some support from a few other teams around. The car number 202 putting some support on to the transmission racing team as they are putting the pressure onto the Mercedes in front. That means that the gap between the Mercedes and Badowski is increasing, which is good for Badowski's team. Right on Davey as well. On the 3/10 back from Schwander now, potentially going to look for something in turn 1, but he's a bit too far back. He does brake later, does gain a little bit of time, gets a closer apex as well. That Lexus appears to be struggling for tyres potentially. So they both nicely make their way through these corners. He's certainly putting that pressure on. He's at the inside into the left-hander here, but Schwander is able to maintain control of that position. It's going to be a better exit for Van der Nied on the inside, or the outside that it will be for the next corner. Let's see who brakes later. The Aston Martin making the most of those brakes, sticking close to the rear of that Lexus, but nothing able to be made there. We've got some support for Davey in the chat as well, which is good to see, but nothing significant from these guys. We'll keep our eye on things. We'll jump on board with Davey as well. We'll jump on the interior cam and see what he's doing with his steering wheel. He's going to take the inside line, try and get a switchback, but it's just blocked by that Lexus there. That Lexus keeping it tight to the apex, able to maintain a hold of that position. It's going to be a better corner for the Lexus as well, but breaking down in towards the final corner, similar points. It's going to be a tighter apex for Davey. He's able to stick his nose up the inside, but nothing too significant. That Lexus is going to have the acceleration down this straight, so we'll maintain that P17 position. Further up the field, Garcia potentially attempted a move, but did unfortunately back off a little bit, and is now down to 9/10 back from that Mercedes, so unfortunately losing out a little bit of time there. Stay on board with Davey as they are going through these corners. Going to hold of that Aston Martin, and you can see a little bit of correction that was on the exit of that corner. I think it touched the grass on the right hand side. Around this corner, it was a tighter line for the apex, but it was a better exit for the Aston Martin as they brake just after the 50-metre board It's going to be a Ferrari on the outside, spun around. Unfortunate to see, but he's out of the way and clear. Hopefully he gets back to racing nice and clear as well. But that gap has certainly spread out now. Davy's not able to make the most of that gap that he had. He's potentially had a bit of dirty air to contend with, but he's fighting for those tenths to come back. As Alexis brakes too late into that corner, it's going to be on the outside for the Lexus. Davy has the opportunity up the inside now. It's going to be Lexus first. Aston Martin, unfortunate to see there, just coming together on the exit of that corner, and the Aston Martin getting a little bit unsteady as a result, going onto the grass. A little bit of a bump with the barrier, but nothing too significant. It was unfortunate to see from those guys, but that is unfortunately racing, and we'll see what the stewards think of that as well. Dalby and Mooney are heading down in towards the final sector of the race as well. There's a little bit of battling between these three drivers here. Finocchiaro is looking for a position as well, touching a bit of grass on the exit, unfortunately though. So we'll be dropping back slightly from that position. Further up front, Ryan Cheshire is actually fighting for Freitag's position again, so Ryan Cheshire potentially making a mistake at some point and allowing Freitag to get through. There's so much action going on at the moment. It's fantastic to see from all these drivers. Of course, as soon as we hit that pit stop time period, those gaps will start to spread out a little bit more. Strategy will come into play for the finishing results of this race, and we'll see what the drivers can do. Ryan Cheshire at the moment though, P6, he's 8 tenths back from Freitag. He's got to do all the work that he'd done previously again, and Nilsson is into the pit lane, so 2-6-7 is into the pits. Pink Ferrari there is taking an early stop, about 52 minutes into the stint timer. Of course, could have gone on for about 15 more minutes, but of course doesn't have to. And of course might get an advantage out of an early stop as well. Ruzicki still putting pressure on Holder, 6 tenths between these two. Someone asking in chat, how am I doing? Organising, hosting and commentating is a lot of work. Yes it is. I'm unfortunately doing the night stints this evening as well, so I'll be on all evening until the early hours of the morning, which is when I can sleep. But doing this sort of stuff is what I love. I do this for what you guys get out of it, and I do this to raise money for charity as well. We get quite a lot of charity donations with our fundraiser races, which is good to see. It's why I put so much time into this stuff, and of course seeing races and battles and the cleanliness and standards that we've seen from today's race as well is very good to see. And yeah, sometimes it gets to race as well. I did Wilton Park a few weeks ago. I unfortunately got into a few incidents that we won't talk about here, but yeah, it's good that I can race as well. I do enjoy Kyalami, so whenever I can race Kyalami, I do have a good go at it. Aston Martin, my favourite car here as well, and quite good. I know the Aston Martin there is pretty good, but enough about me. Let's head back into the racing. Ruzicki still putting pressure on Holder, 2 tenths back from them at the moment, trying to push every tenth that they can, using as much of the track as they can, going actually a little bit wide on the exit of that corner, but nothing too significant. Got some flashes on for that McLaren in front, trying to cause as much distraction as possible. But Holder is looking for Schwander's place as well, so potentially a three-way battle brewing between these guys, which we'll see starting soon enough. Breaking down into the corner, Ruzicki is late on the brake, Schwander is too late on the brakes, going slightly wide there. It's going to be side by side for the two cars in front. We're going to have an excellent view of this from Ruzicki's car. Both cars end up going wide, and it's going to be through goes Ruzicki. Well, excellent moment there for Ruzicki, making the most of the two cars getting wide there and going through on those two cars. Ruzicki now into P17. Schwander and Holder still fighting for that position. The stewards will of course be looking at the contact that happened between those two drivers, but It stands at the moment. It's going to be Schwander in P18, Holder in P19, looking for a position though, and Rozicki in P17. So we've actually got Zavali and Anid just behind them as well, looking for a position. So you can see the Aston Martin all over the rear of Kevin Holder now as well. Kimberly Holder, sorry. As they head towards Sector 2. Enid is all over the rear. Braked a little bit earlier on that corner though. It's going to be a look to the inside, nothing going to be made on this corner though. It's too difficult to make an overtake on that corner. Just going to be trying to switch back and gain some speed up this hill. Too much of the curb, braking as late as you can into this corner, not touching the rear of the McLaren. That's done perfectly by Davey there. And let's not forget about Tavali as well, who is just behind Enid. We'll see what Enid can do in towards this corner though, not able to make a move at the inside. Is all of the rear of that McLaren there. The McLaren is actually getting a little bit unsteady on the exit there, so that's going to potentially leave the door open for someone, but nothing so far. They're all going to have a good corner. They're all going to get round that final corner there, finish off the 32nd lap of the race. Someone said you misspelled Kaiju. That's not me that spells it, it's what's being entered into SimGrid, if you're referencing the team name or a driver name. As we break down in towards turn 1, seems like there's a blue flag that's actually getting in the way of things now. We'll jump on board Kimberly Holder's perspective of things. You can see that blue flag sticking to the right hand side of the track, which is the appropriate thing to do, and just allowing these guys to get past without any further issue. That's good to see from the blue flag there. Again, some good blue flag actions. See any other gaps further out the grid? No, it's just these guys as it stands at the moment. Got about 8 minutes until the stint timer ends, so we'll see some more drivers doing some pit stops soon enough. We've got car number 488 in there at the moment. That's the Ferrari of Federico taking their stop at the moment, potentially swapping drivers, potentially or will be probably swapping tyres and taking on fuel. Leave the pit lane now. Good stop for Federico. They were stopped for a total of 43 seconds, which is unfortunate to see. It's about 13 seconds slower than was necessarily needed, but I'm not sure whether they had a penalty or not. So potentially nothing too significant. Of course, being the first to box, they'll get the undercut on a few drivers, but they are unfortunately out into a race with car number 71. A little bit of slight door banging there between those two drivers, nothing too significant, but you see there that Pinocchio is through and without issues, so is able to continue as it was. We'll jump back on board with the 5-car battle for P18. Schwander holds out from Holder, holds out from Enid, holds out from Diwali, who holds out from Mooney, who is getting certainly very active in this midfield now. Go through these corners, it's going to be the inside line for Holder. We defending this on the straight. Enid looking for as much pressure as they can apply, but nothing too significant. Makes Holder go wide on that corner, but nothing that's going to impact things too much. It was a reduced speed for Enid through that corner. There's a blue flag on the outside there, having a few issues, nothing too significant. And these gaps have now certainly started to spread out. Tavali is behind Mooney, so I think there's potentially something that happened between these guys. Mooney is all the way at this corner already. What's my opinion on drivers using a controller pad? As long as you're safe, sensible, and are able to race at a competitive time, I have no issues with you racing. I used to have a friend, or I still have a friend actually, but he used to race with a joystick actually, and he was the fastest drivers of sort of my friend group, which was very interesting to see considering he was using a joystick. But as long as you're fast, consistent, and clean, you can use whatever you want to. Care about is whether you are clean, whether you're fast, whether you're clean. Speaking of clean, Schwander does have a 20-second penalty applied to their car at the moment, so they're going to lose out quite significantly on the pit stop that they will do. That'll put them down into about P25, P24 positions, which is unfortunate to see, but hopefully there's plenty of time left in the race for them to gain back those positions. Of course, they've had plenty of battling in the first few laps of this race, so have picked up a little bit of damage, a little bit of time penalty in there, so that's where those seconds have come from. Nice a dive up the inside from car number 165. That's a blue flag overtake. Car number 165 is of course Eduardo Boldi, who is about 5 seconds ahead of P2. They are ASD Romiola Esports way ahead of the rest of the field, getting past more blue flags here. Excellent going so far from the number 165 car. Damiano, of course, also in the ASD Romagnola Esports team, is about 5 seconds back from Valdi, but is also 5 seconds in front of Klimczak, who is in P3. So it's an Aston Martin podium as it stands, but of course 23 hours remain. We've just finished the first hour of the race. It's going to be the stint timers ending in the next 4 minutes or so, so we'll see some drivers come in, potentially this lap, potentially next lap. But either way, drivers will be coming in or getting a drive-through penalty. So the positions will change, the gaps will change, and we'll hopefully see some more battles as they emerge from the pit lane. Matteo Gaderi is only 1 second back from Ryan Cheshire at the moment. Ryan Cheshire had a relatively difficult start to this race. He's not been able to set the lap times which he's used to in that Mustang, not able to sort of put on as much pressure to the guys around him, but he is a very fast driver, of course, the fastest in ACM, and he's also very consistent, which is good for these endurance races. The drivers around, of course, might be less consistent and therefore making mistakes. When you make mistakes, you lose time, and that's where positions are gained in a 24-hour race. That's what Ryan will be taking advantage of. Matty Garcia is one of the first in the pit lane. They have come in and will be changing tyres, potentially changing drivers. They have been stopped so far for 35 seconds, which is a long time. Of course, a pit stop in this game usually should take about 30 seconds or so, and they were stopped for 38. They're leaving the pit lane now though, and they are going forward. It's Lena Martinez who is taking over the transmission racing team's Aston Martin, and will be emerging in P14. So a good stop from the 455 team, and they are ready for another hour of racing. Another car which is in the pit lane already is Philippe Hubert, the number 57 Dive Bomb SRT Endurance team. Are in the pit lane at the moment. We stopped for about 20 seconds. We'll see how long it takes them to do their stop. You see on the left hand side quite a few cars are in the pit lane now. That white P symbol next to the name indicates them being in the pit lane. Damiano has also come into the pit lane. He is one of the first of the front runners. He was running in P2 and is now in the pit lane, and there is also Ryan Cheshire in the pit lane. We have Gaderi in the pit lane, Paoletti in the pit lane, all 4 drivers who were up at the front in the pits at the moment. A couple of the drivers, like they were number 165 car, staying out for another lap. I think they think that they have enough time to do that lap. Of course, there is still 1 minute 45 seconds till the stint timer ends, so plenty of time for Eduardo Boldi to get through and extend this stint. Of course, with a 65-minute stint timer, you are able to extend or possibly reduce the time that you have to spend on the final stint, or even maybe eliminate a full stint, 5 minutes every hour. If you're able to lessen your time by 5 minutes every hour, you can gain in total quite a bit of time, about 100 minutes, 120 minutes or so, if I can do the maths correctly. and of course that will allow you to eliminate a stint or two from the race, which is of course good for lap times. But Baldi will be coming into the pit lane now, coming through this second to last corner, not making any mistakes, which is good. Keeps to the left hand side of the track, coming to the pit lane, being careful of the pit lane speed limit, which is that white line there, doing it perfectly, coming through that final corner, keeping it pinned to the throttle, and getting ready for their pit stop as well. They're coming down the pit straight now, coming in towards their box. See them pulling in now just behind another Ferrari and another McLaren, stopping, changing tyres, adding fuel, and potentially changing drivers. Senatore has swapped into the number 164. Aston Martin taking over from Damiano. That took a 33-second pit stop for these guys to change over. Ryan Cheshire is now in P3 as it technically stands. Potentially P4 as we see the drivers starting to leave the pit lane as well. So Ryan Cheshire has gained from Guderi and Tamara, which is good to see. Cheshire had about a 36-second pit stop. The fastest pit stop we've had so far was from George Naki in the RTG race team. Aston Martin, they had the 32-second pit stop, which is good to see. And of course, some of these drivers, like Schwander, for example, has had to stop for 50 seconds at least to serve time penalties, and I think they're repairing some damage also on that Lexus. So unfortunate to see from Schwander, but he's got plenty of time to gain back those positions and fight for his spots. So as it stands, Ryan Cheshire did actually lose out on a few positions, or one position or so from the pit lane. Brent, who is in the 711 Mercedes, swapped over to Leon Kren and is now running in P6, which is a phenomenal performance from this Mercedes. The Aston Martin of Jackson also taking advantage of a quick 32-second stop, and got some support for Aaron Jackson in chat as well, which is good to see. So Aaron Jackson is about 5 seconds back from Vimazar now. Vimazar in the Porsche, which originally had Freitag in it, but is now switched over and out into Vimazar. Vimazar 5 seconds back from Dybas. Dybas in the Pulse Racing team is about 8 seconds back from Senatore, and Senatore about 6 seconds back from Baldi. So those gaps have spread out a little bit, but nothing too significant towards the front of the field. I think the biggest gap that has appeared is the one between Pulse Racing team and ASD up at the front. But there has certainly been some gaps that have closed also as well. You can see the gap for this Mercedes, the Chronix racing team, and Aaron Jackson have come close together. The Mercedes is now all over the rear of the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin looking to defend it, touching the curb on the inside, though unfortunately losing out on that position as a result. That's how bad that inside curb can be. You need to get it perfect here at Kyalami. A lot of drivers hate it, but it sometimes can be quite fun if you get it perfect. So of course you need to practice that corner when you are doing some practice, so that you can make sure you're not making those mistakes. Aaron Jackson able to keep hold of things though, only lost out on 2 positions throughout all of that. Ryan Cheshire actually gaining one of those positions as a result, and Kren also gaining a position 5. So Kren is now looking in his rearview mirror to see where Ryan Cheshire is, but of course we're seeing how these guys perform by the end of this stint as well, which is good to see. Tabali is in P23, he's still behind Cartwright, who was in the who was swapped over from Schwander's Lexus. And these guys are in P22, P23. Deary is looking to put some pressure on Jackson now as well. We saw pressure work well for Jackson as Gadiri goes up the inside of Jackson there. Jackson just allows it to happen. Smart idea this early in a race. You don't want to be battling too hard for those positions, but of course you can if you want to. Ryan Cheshire has indeed got closer to Kren as well. Kren is looking in his mirrors for that Mustang. We'll jump on board actually and see what Kren is seeing from that Mustang. too much now that the gap is about 7/10 or so, but as soon as that Mustang comes closer, you'll be able to see what I mean. Listen to that Mercedes there. Wonderful sounding car. That V8 groaning away. The top end, you've got the turbo whine. From these cars. Ryan Cheshire all over the rear, putting that pressure on. This is the second hour of his 5 hours at the start that he's doing, and then that's him out of the car for the rest of the race. So he's doing the first 5 and then handing over to the rest of the team. He's got about 5 teammates in that car, including one of his close friends, Tom Morris-Jones, who is another very fast driver in the Mustang, which is good to see. But then the other drivers, I don't think, are on the level of Ryan Cheshire, so potentially one that will drop down a few positions. We'll see if that happens. Further down the grid, nothing too close. There is a bit of battle between Lekaj and Jackson now. Lekaj, of course, dropping it back significantly over the first hour of this race. In P9 at the moment, it's starting around P4, P5 area, so we'll be looking for these positions to be gained back, and Lekaj is looking for Jackson as his next victim. Keep an eye on things though. This corner, a little bit wide for Lekaj though. To get a good corner through there though. They're going to have to deal with the blue flag traffic who pulls over and allows these guys to get through nicely. Once again, blue flags here behaving from what I've seen so far excellently, which is good to see, and we'll hope that this continues throughout as well. Dive at the inside there for Zanet Lekaj, but that is seemingly too much of a dive between these guys. Having to lose that position once again to Jackson. Jackson able to take the switchback and able to maintain his P8 position. Still finding his footy, let's say, so apparently it's a relatively new driver to either the team or the car or the track, but either way, Aaron Jackson doing a fantastic job in that Aston Martin so far, fending off from Zanet Lekaj, who is one of the fastest drivers in ACM. Cheshire still putting that pressure onto that Mercedes up ahead, braking late into that corner, but nothing to be gained out of that. That Mercedes getting a slightly better exit, but also running slightly wide on that exit. Both cars getting through that corner nicely. A little bit of a touch at the grass on the left hand side for the Mercedes. Nothing too dangerous though. Ryan Cheshire able to filter on behind. And Mustang will be looking to see what he can gain down this straight. Mustang, one of the fastest cars on a straight line in ACC. So to see what these guys can do. It's going to be potentially a look to the inside, braking at the same point though, looking for a wider apex. Nothing gained out of that, and it actually seems like the Mercedes got a better exit out of that. Able to put the traction down earlier and able to fend that position off from Ryan Cheshire, so we'll keep an eye on the gap. But at the moment, Lekaj is looking for another position, or another attempt at a position gain on Jackson up front. 4 tenths between these guys. I'm keeping my eye on the 3/10 gap between Cheshire and Kren as well. Lekaj being very hesitant on the throttle there, I think going a little bit too far wide on that corner, potentially getting a little bit of the dirty air from the Aston Martin up front. Either way, he's gained a few tenths during the previous few corners, able to take those curbs. Touched the inside curb there, interestingly enough, but having a good enough exit to maintain that gap. Me braking into this corner much later for Lekaj, and Lekaj has to actually go further wide to avoid making contact, so that's unfortunate to see from Lekaj there, but he'll be able to have another go at that in a few laps time. Ryan Cheshire on the other hand, coming through these corners, and putting some pressure onto that Mercedes. You can see them weaving through these corners now. Through the second to last corner, coming to the final corner. Ryan Cheshire all over the rear of that Mercedes onto the pit straight now. Mustang will be using all hundreds of its horsepower, sorry, I don't have the exact number, but it'll be using every single one that it has available to it, trying to get those couple extra kilometers an hour down the pit straight, dive into turn one, move to the inside, and that was a position gained long before the apex of that corner. So is Kren able to fight back for it? He's got the outside line, and no, he just fills in to single file, which is the smart thing to do against Ryan Cheshire. You don't want to be fighting it too hard. He's a very fast driver once he gets himself into some clean air. So now he's fighting or chasing down Zimmervar or Vimazar, who he had lost the position to earlier. He's had quite a race with the number 911 Porsche so far, so hopefully this can continue throughout the next hour or so. But at the moment, Ryan Cheshire P5, Kren dropping down into P6, but either way, Kren is still having a fantastic race as it stands. Kren up 4 positions since the start of this race. Vimazar, the number 911 Porsche, up 5 positions since the start of this race, so very good start to the race for these guys. Everyone else around is either in the same position or has dropped a few. Lekaj, for example, starting in P5, did drop down a few positions, unfortunately. Is now in P9, and then tomorrow a similar one as well. The ISS Racing team dropping from P7 to P10. So unfortunately for these guys, plenty of racing left, plenty of battles still to be had, and we'll keep our eye on things and see where those battles. Keep our eye on Lekaj. They've certainly got some pace in there, but they've made some risky dives, I think, so far. Having to lose the position one time and go to wide a second time. He's going to have to keep his eye on those braking points as he's behind Aaron Jackson. And also, he's not going to have to keep an eye on his mirror because he's got a 10-second advantage over tomorrow. So the rear of his car is as clear as day. You can see there nothing that he has to worry about. So we'll jump back on board and see what he doing for the first corner. You see just how much later, just how much more confident Lekaj is on those brakes compared to the Aston Martin. Has to be aware of that, has to wait for a corner where he knows that Aston Martin struggles, potentially brakes earlier, and that's where the position will have to be gained. Yellow flag up ahead for car number 52. I'm not sure what exactly they get involved in, but they're going slow on the left hand side of the circuit. The back racing though, so it seems like no further issues, which is no problem. Of course, we're still on board with Aaron Lekaj, who does look to the inside, applies a bit of pressure to Aaron Jackson, but Aaron Jackson doesn't fall to it, keeps himself nice and steadily in the inside. Dart to the inside there, and then a dart back to the outside for Zanet there. He's definitely uncertain of his moves, but he's making Aaron Jackson potentially distracted by his mirror, which is always good to see. Jackson very close to that yellow part of the curve there, nothing too significant. Brake around later on the brakes for Zanet. Lekaj again, it's all over the rear for Zanet, and Jackson is going to have a little bit of an advantage from the slipstream there, but not too much from the blue flag on the left hand side, but they both make their way past long before the corner. Zanet Lekaj is making their way up the inside. It's going to be an overtake before the apex of the corner, and this time Zanet Lekaj is able to brake in time to make the apex and secure that position. So that is Zanet Lekaj up into P8 and Jackson down into P9. Got a fun fact about Aaron Jackson. He wishes they were in a GTR for this race, so the Nissan GTR, very interesting choice to see here in ACC. We have had some drivers have some great success with it, such as Kartvik. We've seen some drivers be able to pull off some really good and fast lap times as well, so it'd be interesting to see. And Nissan, but of course it's not the fastest car for most people unless you have had a significant amount of practice. It seems like Aaron Jackson is confident in it though. He wanted to race in the GTR for this one, but he was told by his team apparently to wise up, which is funny to hear. Mustang steady on the entry to that corner there, getting on the grass into the braking zone, losing a little bit of control of the car, and losing out on too much time. So to maintain it for the apex, and that's what's important. Van Zyl, South African driver actually, who is coming through here, fighting the South African car up front. Goes a little bit wide on that corner, loses out a little bit of time as a result. Nothing too significant for him to worry about. Had a position change for Finchiaro. Apologies for mispronunciation of names. My Italian isn't the best. I did visit recently, but I spoke English the entire time. The words that I learned was ciao. So that's all I can really do. But Federico did gain that position into P22 at the moment, and that is where he is at the moment, fending off from Tavali just behind, and of course he'll be looking to gain up some time towards Cartwright and Mooney. Speaking of Mooney, Mooney is just behind Holder. Holder is fending off P19 as it stands. He's had a good race so far with plenty of battles as it currently stands, so Mooney is looking to give him yet another battle. One of the cars which we've not seen for quite a while is Martinez, the 455 Aston Martin, going through these corners. 5 seconds back from Chojnacki at the moment, and about 13 seconds in front of Robinson. So a strong position for the number 455 Aston Martin at the moment, and they just need to keep that going for the rest of the race. Potentially get a top 10 finish. There is some quite close gaps present in the top 10, so potentially a few positions to gain from collisions and so on. So it's good to see from these drivers. Van Zyl also looking for a position. We covered these guys earlier on. He ran wide on the previous lap, but he's able to make that corner stick this time. He's going to have the advantage throughout the end of Sector 1 in towards Sector 2. It's going to be a tighter line for the Ferrari, but the McLaren taking a wider entry, getting a potentially better exit there in that McLaren. Interesting to see the variability of lines here from the different drivers that we have on track. But of course, all drivers are certainly very fast and certainly very consistent as well. Guys that seem to be just in front of the leader. The leader, of course, Baldi, who is in the 165 ASD Romagnoli Esports Aston Martins. That's 7 seconds ahead of his teammate now, who is in turn 16.5 seconds in front of their teammate. So I think Dybas has potentially had an issue at some point, because they're only 2 seconds ahead of P4 now as well. So that gap certainly is closed, but P1 and P2 is in a strong position for the ASD Racing, ASD Romagnoli Esports team. They are looking for P1 and P2 for that team. Bali. Still putting pressure on Federico in front, but Federico, who we saw gaining that position on the previous laps, not falling under too much pressure. Mooney might be able to go for something here. It was a wide entry, wide late break for Holder up front. Holder is going to be accelerating hard down this straight though, and Mooney is going to be making it as clean as they can. Late on the brakes into that corner, slightly wide of the apex there, actually, so losing out a couple of tenths from the McLaren up front. Ryan Cheshire is only 1 second back from Vimazan now. He's just broken under that 1 second barrier. I think Vimazar has been slowed down slightly by a blue flag, but hopefully they'll get past the blue flag throughout the next few corners. Exactly done. Number 267 lets these guys go through. Pressure only 0.7 back from Vimazar now. back on board with Mooney and Holder though, as this battle is spicing up between the similarly coloured McLarens. We'll see what Mooney can do in the third sector of this lap. It's a tighter entry from Holder up front, an interesting line to take, but it's done him well. Seemingly he's able to get a better exit than Mooney out of that one. See if Mooney makes any attempt in towards the sort of third to last corner now though. Right on the brakes, taking a wider entry than Holder up front. Holder potentially going to have to get through the blue flag up ahead though. Beautiful liveries from both of these guys. Mooney is certainly putting the pressure on as they head down towards turn 1. It's nose to tail at the moment. Mooney chooses the right hand side, Holder chooses to defend the left hand side. It's going to be potentially a switch back for Mooney there. It was very close on the outside. It's currently Mooney ahead, but it's currently about side by side, and there it goes. Holder does cede that position and Mooney is able to get through. Very nice overtake into P19 there for Mooney. He's got 16 seconds to need up front, which is quite a big gap, but it's good to see he's able to make that work. One that I missed just recently as well was the overtake between Ryan Cheshire and Vimazar. Vimazar is unfortunately now behind Cheshire. Cheshire is back up into P4, back into their starting position, which is good to see, but he does have about 3 seconds to gain until P3 and then 17 seconds to gain until P2, so that gap is extensive for Ryan Cheshire to get into the top podium positions, but I have no doubt that he will do it over these next 5 hours or so. Nathan Cartwright is another driver who's in a battle at the moment. That's with the 847 car. I believe the 847 car has potentially had something with Holder. Holder's now in P21 and Mooney is now fighting Cartwright, so potentially there was a little bit of a scrap between Mooney and Holder, and Cartwright took advantage of that and is now up into P19, gaining back those seconds that were lost in the pit stop. But see from Cartwright, unfortunate to see for Mooney, but I have no doubts that Mooney will make that position go again. Not sure what's happening there. There's a little bit of internet lag between those drivers as they seem to be both inside each other, but it was Tavali looking for a fight with Federico. And Kadiri is now looking for a position into P6 as well. Kren in the Mercedes up ahead is trying to defend it. Good fighting overall so far in this first hour and a half of this race. This is 24 hours of Kyalami. This has been hosted by ACM Racing. ACM Racing hosts up to 5 events every single week. We have a range of tracks and events from 20 minutes to 24 hours. Of course, you can see we've got a 24-hour race on at the moment. Tomorrow we've got a 60-minute race at Zolder. On Monday we've got a 45-minute in the Porsche Cups at Nürburgring, and then on Thursday we've got 100 minutes of Paul Ricard, followed by 45 minutes of Imola. So plenty of action here to do at ACM. If you want to come and join us, acm-racing.com is the place to go. I'll post that link in chat. And you can head into the events page and view all of the upcoming events which we have and everything which we'll have coming. So thank you very much for watching, everyone, for the first hour and a half of this race. Unfortunately, I am going to have to go now from the comms box, but I might be back towards the end of this race, depending on how it goes, depending on how tired I am as well. But thank you very much for watching. I've been Harry, the host of this race, the owner of ACM, and the commentator as well. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you have all enjoyed. It's been some great battling, been some great racing between some drivers, and also some great action, some blue flags as well. A few incidents, a few penalties in there, but overall a very clean first hour and a half. So thank you very much for watching. Come and join us, acm-racing.com, if you want to join us on the grid, and if not, we will see you next time.